Scheduled meeting of the Shelburne Selectboard, March 12, 2019, my daughter's birthday today, actually. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
Move to approve.
Any discussion?
Yes, with the chair's permission, I'd like to offer an amendment to the agenda to add an item 11A specific to Economic Development Committee discussion.
Move to approve as amended.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's okay, thank you.
That was your first vote on the select board, Mike.
All right, welcome to Mike Ashew, our new select board member. Thank you for stepping up and serving. And just for information, if anyone wishes to speak from the audience tonight, the microphone in the center is the one that's working. The one on the side is not functioning too well this evening. Next up, reorganizational meeting, and the first item would be to elect a chair for the coming year.
Move that Jerry Story act as chair of the select board.
Second.
Any discussion? Other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
And I will yield. We now have a chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kenny. Putting your square on just in case. The next item on the agenda is to elect a vice chair. Is there a nomination?
Yes.
Mary nominates
Jamie Hines
as vice chair.
Second.
Colleen seconds. Any other nominations? Hearing none, those approving, please signify by saying aye.
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 Abstain.
And those opposed, nay. Jamie abstains. The next item is to confirm the regular meeting dates, times, and location. Lee, do you want to?
Sure. Historically, the regular meetings have been the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month at 7 p.m., held right here in Meeting Room 1. And if that works for the board and the public, presume we'd stay the course.
I confirm that.
Moved. Colleen, did you move?
Do you want a motion? Yes, I move.
And Mary seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion in the public? Hearing none, those approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next item is to designate accounts payable and payroll warrants for the select board.
Practice we follow is to have a board member assigned to each month to sign basically our bills. They look through the bills that we're paying, sign off on that sheet, and as well as our payroll. Our practice has been to have the chair assigned for fewer months than the rest of the board members. So given that we didn't know who the chair was going to be, we don't have that report for you tonight, but we'll probably adopt it if it's the board's willingness to do that at the next meeting. And we do have March covered, so we're fine for going ahead with that.
Thank you, Peter. I think we'd be more comfortable if we move formally to so designate.
But we have to designate the months.
Beginning,
Yeah, I'll prepare a list at the next meeting, if that's okay, to have the assignments.
okay.
Then we can just move to approve the list.
Okay. I mean, the process, we could formalize the process, but you want an actual schedule. We'll have a schedule in front of us. Thank you. The next item is to designate a newspaper of record.
Which typically, as I understand it, has been the Shelburne News for hearing notices or other formal notices of the select board.
So moved.
Colleen moves.
Second.
Mary seconds. Any discussion? That would be unfair, Maddie.
From the award-winning journalist.
Hearing none, those approving, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The next item is to adopt rules of procedure. The suggestion is to adopt the rules that we approved last year, which included some of us will remember a provision for being able to amend those as needed, and the new 15 in the handout.
Mr. Chair, I have some questions about the rule, if it's appropriate time to raise it. I think paragraphs 15 and 16 are duplicative.
Yes, they
Yeah.
were.
I did distribute a newer version where, with new dates on it for this
Oh.
year, and deleting number 15 because it was already covered in
Okay,
16. I
thank you.
believe that was a change made last year, but not incorporated
Okay.
into the document, so good catch.
I have a couple others, which may not be so good, but we'll see. It's paragraph 8. Second sentence, I think it should say, those who wish to add an item to the agenda. Rather than those who wish to be added to the meeting agenda. It's kind of picayune.
Yep, fine.
And then, I don't understand the last sentence. I will read it. The town manager is responsible for posting the agenda at least 48 hours before a regular meeting and 24 hours before the meeting.
That should probably say 24 hours before a
Special meeting, that's what I think,
Yeah.
yep.
Good for
Yeah.
you, Mary.
Good catch.
I was stuck on the ferry today. That explains.
The degree of scrutiny. Good for you.
Those are both helpful.
Gotta do something.
Are there any other comments? Can we accept those edits?
I'm fine with that. Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion by Colleen, seconded by Jamie, to approve as edited. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those approving, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The next item is to appoint a tree warden.
So this is another required annual appointment under statutes. We have currently a tree warden, David Thomas Hall, who has done quite well for us over the past year. He is quite willing to continue serving if that's the will of the board.
That's good. David's done a nice job. Any comments?
Move to appoint
David Hall.
Hall, right, as tree warden.
Second.
Moved by Mary, seconded by Jamie, to appoint David Hall tree warden. Any discussion?
Is that for a 1-year
Yes,
terms?
Hearing none. Those approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
everybody. The next item is to approve the Select Board meeting minutes of February 26, 19.
Move to approve the minutes as drafted.
Second.
Mary moves to approve. Colleen seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed, nay. And we would
I'll
understand.
abstain.
We would understand that not only Jamie, but Mike would abstain. Next item are public comments, and we ordinarily start with the new library town center. I'm
Where's Ruth?
not sure.
Ruth and Kathy are both on vacation, so I'll give a quick update in the town manager's report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, seeing no hands. The next item is to the Select Board report. I'd like to lead off, and that would be first to extend our compliments and great thanks to Diana and Tom Little for their roles in the town meeting for the vote. And it was really a very smooth. I commented to Diana and said we saw a lot of people with smiles on, which is nice. So they did a tremendous amount of work. We're also very appreciative of the willingness of the community school to make the gym available and all of their help to set up and take down. It was a really nice event, and we're very appreciative. Mike will give you the honor of his first comment on your first night.
I think I'll keep it short and say thank you very much for the welcome, and I'm happy to be here and looking forward to serving.
I have one brief comment. It has to do with the town meeting last Monday, which was quite enjoyable, but I regret that I didn't speak up during the town meeting when there was discussion about the Select Board's decision to waive its stipend. I was going to say salary, but that didn't seem right. And I regret I didn't speak up because what I would have said is that this was a decision that the board made collectively as a one-time thing that was more symbolic than anything else, to let the rest of the town know that we understood we were asking people to bend, so we felt we needed to bend, and it was a one-time thing. And I wish I had said that, and I'm going to take the opportunity to say it tonight. By no means did I think any of us felt it was going to be something that was going to be the protocol going forward. So that's my only comment.
Colleen?
Just welcome, Mike. Congratulations, Jamie. And it was a hard-fought race for both of you, and thanks for sticking with it. Really appreciate your level-headedness
We love this.
and
Thank you.
calmness on the board. Yeah.
Privilege to be here.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment to follow on your comments about town meeting. It was very well run. The elections are always so smooth, and wanted to just thank the legislators as well. I thought I caught halfway in to the table talks, but I thought it was a cool format and very accessible and just a good concept going forward. So I hope we continue that. And then lastly, just an observation, the turnout was pretty low. We had 22% turnout in elections, so we need to just think about how we re-energize folks to come out to the polls and vote and exercise their franchise. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's an easy thing to vote, but it's not easy to drive that turnout rate up.
I commented to Tom, I thought the interaction with the legislators was really very productive, and that format, that change, roundtables kind of thing, was really neat. I don't know exactly whose idea that was, but boy, that I agree with you. I thought that was a really informative and sort of just amongst us folks kind of discussion. So hopefully that'll continue next year. Any other comments from anyone? Next item is the town manager report.
Yeah, I'd like to echo the way the legislators handled that when they approached me, just for my thoughts on it, I thought it would be a much more personable approach rather than the speeches that typically have been given previously. And I too would like to thank everyone who helped prepare town meeting, attend town meeting. I'm a firm believer in town meeting. I've participated in decades of town meetings, and I think it's a really wonderful aspect of democracy that doesn't exist in many other places. As far as the library town center project, there's quite a lot of work going on, much of it inside. Right now, there's a big crew of workers in there, the basement of the historic town hall. The heating, ventilation, and cooling systems are being installed, sprinkler systems, rooms are being sheetrocked. The new structure is well underway. There's all sorts of electrical and plumbing and other insulation work going on there. So a lot of good progress right now. The final foundation was poured last week, and so that sort of sets free all the contractors to start doing their thing. And the most interesting challenge now is just making sure that the plumbers, electricians, insulators, and everyone else are coordinating their efforts so I don't install something first that makes it hard for the next person to do. Also like to congratulate our journalist, Maddie Hughes, who is with us, unfortunately for us, fortunately for her, her last meeting tonight. She's moving on. She's also an award-winning journalist, and she has a new job, and we will miss her. But
I'm going to be working in Derry, New Hampshire, and I'm going to be working for the Eagle Tribune, which is based out of Andover, Massachusetts.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. She'll She's going to be chasing the presidential primaries over there. We will miss your thorough, calm, honest reporting.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Can I add one thing? Neither here nor there, really, but I had the opportunity to get a tour this weekend at Conant Custom Brass, because there's a building there that was having sort of an open house. And hanging in the middle of Conant Custom Brass are 6 beautiful, huge chandeliers from Town Hall, and they're all getting refurbished, and they're lovely. It was nice to see them up. Not yet, but it was nice to see them up close and personal and see that transformation about to take place for our little town. It's very exciting.
Super. Any discussion, comments? Hearing none, the next item is the Vermont Railway, Inc., Town of Shelburne decision, which was rendered by the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. The town has made a statement, which I can read as follows. The town has received and is reviewing a copy of the Second Circuit's decision in the Town of Shelburne versus Vermont Railway, Inc. matter. The town intends to make a more thorough public statement at a future date once we've had an opportunity to assess and discuss the decision. Is there any comment? Sean?
I'll hold you up.
Yeah. Sean Moran, finally Lakeview Co-op, after a long process. So I know this is like turning to the television and seeing the 15th rerun of the I Love Lucy show that you've gone, oh, I've seen that one before. All of us, or a great number of us here tonight, to echo what we've said before, to use your collective heads when you discuss this and not your individual heads with individual agendas when you discuss maybe moving on or letting this lie where it is. There's only 2 groups of people who make money with an ongoing fight with the railroad, and those are the 2 lawyers. Now, one of the lawyers has a client with very deep pockets, and our lawyer has a client with holes in their pockets, because we're paying for a lot that we voted for before, for a fire truck, for sewer, which we need, for finally a fire and rescue possible relocation. We cannot afford to pay to go forward with this. It's just suicide. The budget is strained, as I'm sure Peter can reflect. We're happy, we were very happy that the fire and rescue passed, because I think it's a needed thing. I, of course, thought it was a lot more needed in the library, but that's an issue that has sailed, so it's up and it will open. Just use your heads, folks. You know, we just don't have the money to pursue this, to be slapped down again and again and again. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sean. Anyone else, Linda?
Linda Reel, Falls Road. I would echo Sean's sentiments and urge you not to pursue going any further as far as the appeal goes. I think it's time to put the baby to bed. Yeah.
Thanks, Linda. Any other comments? Vivian?
Vivian Jordan, Lakeview Co-op. Mine's going to be very brief. My first thought when I saw that decision was 3 strikes and you're out. And it's baseball season, almost.
Nearly so. We have March Madness before that. We're careful about what we schedule now, from now on. Thank you, Vivian. Any other comments? Hearing none, the next item is to consider an application for appointment to the Planning Commission. Mr. Curtis, would you like to take over the mic and tell us a little bit about your interest in this position?
I don't have any prepared remarks, but I would tell you that I have some experience in the Planning Commission. I have I've been in Shelburne for 9 or so years. I have a second grader, and he does soccer and basketball and this sort of thing, and that's not my my style. It feels very awkward to me to go be a coach. I have some experience doing Planning Commission work. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the kinds of discussions. I enjoy talking about what the community wants and what the community can bring to the table, and how the town can best support the community in doing that and helping to understand where people's different perspectives are and that kind of thing. So anyways, like I say, I don't have any prepared remarks, but that's the nickel tour, yeah.
Neil, you served on the Energy Subcommittee.
I sure did.
Correct,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
You bet.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Any questions, Mike? Mary?
Neil, have you had a chance to look at the ethics ordinance that was recently adopted? If not, no big deal.
The ethics ordinance, no. Why did this come up recently? Don't think of something else.
No, it's okay. It's, I would encourage you to take a look at that over the next couple weeks and just get familiar with it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Lee or the Ethics Committee Chair.
You bet.
So.
No, point well taken.
Good.
Colleen, any questions for?
No, thank you for applying and being interested in being involved.
So this would be for a term ending, is this for someone who resigned?
There has been an open seat apparently for some period of time, so this would be for a full new term as best I can tell.
Okay. Through a 3-year,
So it'll be a 3-year.
22,
Yes.
April 1, 22. It's a very impressive set of qualifications.
Sure.
See, we're just very fortunate to have you have your interest and.
Thank you for saying so.
Have you got any questions for us?
Great. Move to appoint Neil Curtis to the Shelburne Planning Commission for a term effective tonight and ending April 1, 2022.
Jamie moves the appointment. Is there a second? Mary seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you so
And
much.
those opposed, nay.
Thanks, Neil, for
Welcome.
volunteering.
Thanks, Neil, very much.
Thank you.
Next item is to present the audit report.
Each year we have, after our annual audit, have one of the partners of the firm that does the audit come and talk to the board, sort of give their perspective in their own words rather than us trying to translate it. So we do have Rick Brigham here from Sullivan Powers and Company. This is the 4th year they have done our audit. I can say they're a very thorough firm. If you look at other town reports throughout Vermont, you'll probably see their name in a lot of places. They do bring a lot of experience to the engagement, and we've enjoyed working with them. They do make a lot of recommendations as well as just looking at the books, which are very useful for us. Creates more work, but that's part of the job. So with that, I'll have Rick come up and just go through the highlights of the audit. It is on, if there are some extra town reports here, and the audit is in there on page 63 if anyone wants to follow along.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me here tonight. Again, my name is Rick Brigham. I'm with Sullivan Powers. I'm a partner. I'm actually the lead partner on the engagement. We, like Peter said, we've been doing the audit for 4 years, and one of the things I always start off when, especially when I've talked here, is there's a lot of work that goes into this audit report, and people will look at it and maybe be a little overwhelmed sometimes when you're looking at all the numbers, when you're looking at all the recommendations and all the issues. But there's so much that goes into financial reporting that goes on throughout the whole year. This audit report is almost kind of like the final report of all that. You're getting regular monthly reports from. Whoops. Sorry about that. So there's a lot of the financial reporting that happens throughout the year that goes unnoticed, but a lot of the same facets that go into making this audit report go into the same reporting that you're getting on a regular basis each month. So what we kind of look at is the audit report gives you a good financial picture at the end of the month, a snapshot in time. June 30, 2018, it's the balance sheets of all your different funds, it's the income statements for all your different funds, the net assets, kind of figuring out your financial positions. But it also, what we do with Peter and what the staff is kind of go through all our recommendations, things that could change, things that they could modify. And we discuss those throughout the audit and right into the point where we, issue those findings to the board as well. So it's kind of a communication process that's important from the beginning of the audit right to this point. A lot of what I'm doing tonight is here to answer any of your questions and kind of reiterate to you. I've read through the MD&A, which is prepared by Peter. We kind of go through it and make sure it's factually accurate. The MD&A is maybe a 6 or 7 page synopsis of the audit report, user-friendly. It was designed, I don't know, it must have been 10 or 15 years ago in one of the GASB standards to try to say, let's try to make audit reports more user-friendly to the readers, not to the bankers and bond agencies and things like that, but to the everyday taxpayer who can go through it. The MD&A was designed for that. So if you were looking at nothing else in the audit report, if you looked at the MD&A, kind of read through it, you would get a really good highlight of what happened with the year from a financial perspective.
What's the MD&A?
If you look at the audit report, I'll go through the pieces of the audit report real quickly, but to answer your question, pages 4 through 12, it's called the Management's Discussion and Analysis. And again, it's something that as we're going through and audit reports, these audit reports can either be prepared by the client or they can be prepared by the auditor or in conjunction. We kind of do it in conjunction with Peter. Certain sections he does, certain sections we do. So we kind of help him with that. But technically, when you're looking at the audit report, the only 3 pages that belong to me are the auditor opinion. My job is to come in here and basically look at the financial statement, look at the trial balances, look at all the assets, liabilities, compliance with laws, regulations, all that stuff, and to come up with that 3-page opinion. With that 3-page opinion, you have 3 choices. You have an adverse opinion, financial statements are not fairly stated. You have a qualified opinion, which is financial statements are fairly stated except for this, this, or this. And then there's the best one you can have, which is an unqualified opinion. And once again, I believe it was for the 4th year in a row since we've been here, you've got an unqualified opinion, which is the best you can do. So, and like I always try to reiterate to people, it doesn't come without a lot of hard work and a lot of cooperation. I know with Peter and his staff and all the things, and as well as board decisions and how you guys look at warrants and all those things go into the audit process and go into the kind of evaluations of controls and processes. So all of that's taken into consideration when we're looking at the audit report and when we're looking at the findings and recommendations. So like I said, those pages 1 through 3, that's my auditor's report. We did have an unqualified opinion. When you're looking at pages 4 through 12, that is the management's discussion analysis. Again, that's the user-friendly version of going through your audit report and kind of giving you a quick heads up on all the different important aspects of the audit report. Couple of things I wanted to just go over real quick. A lot of these numbers, obviously, this was June 30, 18. We're almost getting to June 30, 19 now. So a lot of the numbers are old. I'm not going to sit there and pour back to all the numbers and stuff that you already know. But just to kind of go over a few quick things. The general fund balance, which is obviously what most people key on, went from $557,569 in last year to $634,097 this year. So again, a good increase in the fund balance, healthy fund balance. It's in pretty good shape. A lot of people, a lot of boards kind of wonder, geez, what's a healthy fund balance? How much should we have? And all I'm going to say is, those kinds of decisions are on a board-by-board basis. I go to some places and they want to spend the fund balance now, and I go to some places where, they understand that having that fund balance for cash flow reserves and for any sort of emergencies and for all that kind of stuff to just make sure to have a decent, healthy fund balance. I think the GFOA recommends like a 28% fund balance of budget. Most places don't get to quite that level, but that's the recommendation that they usually put out there. Yep.
just to that ratio, it seems like we're spot on there, right?
I
For
think
that
you are spot on.
recommendation.
I actually didn't do the calculation, but like I said, you're
At or
a
above.
fairly healthy budget.
Okay.
Fund balance right now.
We're about 6%.
Yeah.
But even that's pretty good compared to a lot of places I'm at. Dollar-wise, you're good. 637 is still a good dollar-wise, but as percentage of budget, you're right, it's still, it could be better as far as cash flows and, you know, being able to pay for emergency purchases.
The charter recommends 5%.
That's what I mean by it can really vary from charter to boards to taxpayers and what everybody wants and what everybody needs. I've heard so many opinions through going to do these board meetings of what people want and what they think should happen. But again, it's really all over the board, so it's really kind of a board by board decision, really. So the other thing I just wanted to point out about fund balances, the only other things I wanted to mention were that the sewer fund went from 1,408,627. It actually dropped a little bit to about 1,217,000. Again, very healthy fund balance in that fund. It dropped about 191,436. Fairly small drop compared to the total budget, but I did want to point that out. The other thing I thought was good was I saw that the water fund had a negative fund balance, unrestricted fund balance last year, and actually went up to a positive, went from a negative 20 to a positive 83, which I thought was which was a good turnaround for the water fund for sure. And you want to keep seeing that progress as the years go on and try to build up to a healthier fund balance for sure. Other things that I'm sure Peter has included, I've read through his, like I said, his analysis of the audit report, which most of this, pretty much I concurred with all of the way he kind of laid it out and the issues. We did issue a management letter and gave him some recommendations, which you're welcome to go through. We've discussed them with Peter and the staff, and we're willing to discuss them more, especially in trying to get as many of them into place as possible. We understand that a lot of the things we're talking about take resources, time and effort. And, you know, obviously budgets are a stretch thing, and trying to get people to be able to get to those things and get them all done is hard. But there's some of that stuff's pretty important, and we'd like you to at least take a look and run through and see the important things as a board that you want to attack, and we'll be glad to help you in any way we can. Some of the required communications that I need to tell you, as far as the audit goes, we had no difficulties in dealing with management. We had no disagreements with management. And all the entries we proposed as part of the audit process were all posted. So there was nothing that didn't get posted to the financial statements that we thought should have been posted. Sometimes there's like past adjustments or things like that. There were nothing like that this year. So that was pretty much all the stuff I wanted to go to. Was there any questions that the board had related to the audit, the process, or anything like that? Yes, Mary.
Read your management letter, and there was a lot in there, very helpful.
Yeah.
I would like to know from you, as someone who does this for a living, if you could do only 3 things in your letter, what would you do?
If I was doing all the things, I think there's actually 4 of them, they'd be looking at any of the material weaknesses, and they relate to the balance sheet count reconciliation, the segregation of duties, and
Transfer of funds. Transfer of funds.
Yep, yes, the electronic transfers and getting a second approval on those. A lot of this is about getting a second pair of eyes on every single transaction. You're already doing that when you do warrants. You know, you guys are getting that second pair of eyes from you guys, from department heads are already looking at it. So what we're suggesting is when you're doing electronic transfers, to make sure that there's a second person looking, signing off, approving, that kind of thing. And then, same thing.
We have been doing that.
That's good. And so, as far as the segregation of duties from the bank statement, same thing. Is anybody who's signing a checking account shouldn't be reconciling it. So we're trying to make sure that your process, as far as that goes, is just a matter of tweaking. Who's ever going to be reconciling the account just shouldn't have check signing authority. If you can fix that one thing, that would be a big thing to just get done as soon as you can get done. And I know there's been transition in people and staff, but the sooner that can happen, the better. And then the other thing would be, same thing with journal entries. Like I said, you guys are already approving warrants, and you know, everybody, we have second people looking at deposits, things like that. If somebody corrects a journal entry from, moving an account balance from here to here, or moving an expense from here to here, there just should be a second pair of eyes on that and signing off saying, yes, I see where you did a journal entry here and approving that. And then the other pair that I already mentioned was reconciling balance sheet accounts. That's just pure timing. That's Peter's staff being stretched thin. They do, they are as thin as they can be to get what they have to get done. So when we come in here, there's a lot of times where they're just behind with what they need to get to in reconciling a lot of that stuff. There's always we want to have the audit done by this process sooner than now, obviously, but sometimes it's just trying to get all those reconciliations, all those accounts put up to date, deferred revenue, receivables, payables, all that stuff booked and transactions done. It just takes more time, that's all. And if there was some, more resources put to that, you could fix that right up, and then all those accounts, you'd be getting even more timely information on a regular basis.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Any other questions?
I have a few comments. First, we are very fortunate to have Peter's effort and Colleen's. We can be assured that the financial condition of the town is sound, that the finances are well managed. We did anticipate in goals and objectives for Lee addressing the controls and other management issues.
Great.
And I think the next step should be to address these two material deficiencies, and not so much correcting them or changing them as giving us a time frame by which time you and Peter think you can come back and give us your changes or corrections. Further, interestingly enough, and I kind of fault myself, I should have kind of known better to not have looked this up before, and I didn't realize that we didn't have a tax delinquency policy.
Mm-hmm.
This is when you do, how much notice, when you do liens, when you have a tax sale.
Yeah.
That we need to correct, I think,
And a lot of places don't
very
have
soon.
a policy specific. They just have
Yeah.
a format and a way they always do it, so they can get
Yeah.
away without the policy. But having the policy kind of dictates
No
when
question.
you're going to have it.
No question,
Yep.
yeah. And I think with a pronounced effort that we're going to be making this year on alternative revenues, some of which qualify as delinquent taxes, we are well advised to probably make that a kind of a priority. I'm guessing that's pretty much a shelf item.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the first step has already been taken with the most delinquent taxpayers,
Yeah.
and depending on their responses to that first step, we will initiate follow-up steps, and I'll keep you apprised of the progress.
We put it on it's an extensive process through time. It ends, it can end if there are outcomes such as installment payments, there are all kinds of outcomes. One outcome is a tax sale.
Right.
And it would be very well for us, I think, to have that in hand. So I would kind of urge Peter and Lee to even put that ahead of maybe the management, the material deficiencies. And the other comment was, we've had interest expressed, Jamie has, in our funds. So how many, what they are, what they do, how does money move to and from them? And at some future point, if Lee and Peter have the time, it might be useful to come back to us and give us an overview, just a brief introduction to those funds, how we've arrived at them, how we maintain them, what their future potential is, so on and so forth.
Sure.
Think that could be on our agenda for the retreat?
That's a great item
Yeah.
for the retreat,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it could well be. We thank you a lot
Thank you very
for
much.
your willingness to take on that fourth year on very short notice. We appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Anything we can do to help moving forward,
Yeah.
we're here for you, so we appreciate the cooperation, partnership we have with you. So thanks again to everybody for all the
Thanks,
work.
Rick.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you.
coming, Rick.
Are there any other questions?
No, I'd just like to make
Colleen?
a comment. Peter and I have worked with many accounting firms, and Rick's firm has really been one of the best that we've worked with, and they've given us really, I've never been upset about having an audit because they always give you ways to improve and make things better for the town. So we really appreciate all their hard work. Thank you.
That goes for all of us, Rick, I'm sure. I mean, Peter?
And just to echo what Colleen said, but it really is kind of a group effort. And I find that with this board, I think the public should know this, we do, as we said at the beginning of the meeting, assign people to come in every week or month or whatever to sign the bills or to look at the bills that we're paying, payroll reports. And I've had, in my experience in the past, I've had some board members come in, where do I sign? And they leave. This board, without exception, comes in and really flips through every single bill, comes back, asks excellent questions, and that's the kind of control environment that I think the voters would want. And it's definitely present, and I think we really appreciate your time and effort doing that. I know it's a big stack to go through, but you all take it seriously, and that's very important. That's that other set of eyes that Rick was talking about that can look at things and, well, what's this for? And ask those kinds of questions, because it's very valuable. So thank you.
Thank you,
I would
Peter.
say that I'm just very grateful to Peter for his patience. For, what's this one for?
Same
And
with
where
me.
is this from?
Yeah, same with me. I thought I was being annoying.
The newbies.
Yeah, exactly. You just keep
I
doing
mean,
it.
how else would we know that Blue Tarp is actually
Yeah.
the organization for Overshot Hardware? Right? Otherwise, they don't seem to be much of a match, but yeah. Well, thank you, Peter, very much, and I think I think the consensus is, as direction to you, Lee, that we might even add the question of treasurer as an organizational question, so there could be a whole episode kind of at retreat on all of those items. Okay? Any other questions?
Well, how long is Colleen going to be part-time treasurer? Right? Okay.
Any other questions? Any discussion? Hearing none. Next item is the retreat, which we've just been speaking about. My only comment is that I think it might be useful. Last year, we went right into questions of priority activities, projects. We were new. The town manager situation was going to be uncertain. It's thinking about this, it strikes me that one of the things Lee has accomplished over the past year is regular communication on priorities, and we've kind of made that a mainstay part of our meetings, such that I'm not sure that outcome is maybe the principal outcome of the retreat, so much as that we might adopt, in my sense, a theme this year, and I'd suggest it be strategic plan. And that maybe we organize the retreat around, so that there's some thematic comment to whatever we're discussing. Others of us, I'm sure, are going to have other views. My other comment is to make every effort we can, since this is a public meeting, to have it at the convenience of members. And we talked a little bit last year about having it in 2 or 3 meetings rather than one long one. I don't have an opinion on that.
I like when we are able to sit down and really get to work and finish it, even if it takes, a Saturday morning. I'd rather do that than chunk it out and have more meetings spread over time.
I concur.
Can you help? What's the format? I'm not familiar with this.
It changes a little bit every year.
Basically what we're talking about now. I mean, it's our opportunity.
So a half day, a day?
It's usually in
We
the
did an
past
evening,
it was
didn't we, last
there
year?
was an evening, but it's usually about 4 hours.
It was, like 5 to 9, I think we did last year.
The Teddy Bear Factory
Right.
last year.
Yeah, that worked very well that time, didn't it? 5 to 9
We were
kind of.
focused, we had a big thing that came up that
Right.
derailed us a little bit, pardon the phrase, because we had to deal with an interim town manager.
Right. Yeah,
So,
No,
that was the focus.
yeah.
we were trying to set priorities. It was very granular, more so than maybe a retreat. It just
Yeah.
didn't allow, we didn't have the luxury of
But it's
thinking.
warned as a meeting.
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
but it doesn't supplant another scheduled regular meeting, so it
No.
would be in between one of
Yeah.
the.
It's independent of it,
It's
and
an
it's
extra.
not televised, but it's open to the public.
Right, okay.
And it usually tends to be a little bit more casual. And so it just invites more like this, like get down and work session.
Right. Okay.
And we really kind of brainstorm about what priorities have presented themselves to the town that we need to focus on. So it allows the town manager to kind of give us a calendar of what we can expect in the next year,
Right.
and helps kind of direct his work too.
Great.
We
And
tend to
an
have it
adva-
in
we have an
another
advantage. We
location.
did goals and objectives in some detail. We have, that's kind of a lattice work. We've added a major project, which obviously, we have a focus on capital investment, which we've agreed is a principal one.
Long-term capital.
Long-term, and my sense is maybe we just adopt informally a theme and try to ask Lee to identify pieces that fit to a theme. Where are we going to be in 10 years without being theoretical, but in terms of budget and capital investment,
Right.
near-term priorities? I mean, my sense is that he's done a really good job adjusting priority activities as we go along. And so that may not be as important as it was last time.
So the other thing is we typically tend to have it at another location that's usually hosted by someone in town. So we've been Shelburne Museum, Shelburne Farms, the Teddy Bear Factory, La Villa for that
No.
one evening one.
No.
Those are the four.
Have you been to Wake Robin? I don't know
I don't
whether
think
that-
so.
No.
I don't think so. And there's typically like a little bit of like a presentation by whoever it is that's hosting it. So we know a little bit more about that aspect of the town. And there tends to be some type of breakfast or lunch or food of some sort.
And then we may invite someone to make even to make a presentation on it if we think there's a subject that deserves it and want to hear. We have a town plan now. I mean, we have a lot of stuff now accomplished in front of us. And the question might be, how best do we integrate all of this moving forward? So why don't we just communicate our ideas to you, Lee?
Sure.
Are you thinking of a time, April, May?
Well, part of my learning process here is, as with Mike, learning about how you've used this before, when you've typically done it, and how I can help facilitate that. Certainly I could, if you're thinking about a Saturday, for example, and whether it's a morning or afternoon, I could do a doodle poll and see who's available. That would be an efficient way to at least streamline this.
We have our priorities here.
So you're thinking April or May? Is that time frame?
I think
You don't know
April?
when the Final Four will be over, do you?
I don't even think
Beginning
about it. I enjoy it.
Beginning of
Oh,
April.
you-
It's supposed to be really soon, right after the reorganizational meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we had, it was April, wasn't it?
I think it was like April.
Teddy
It's
bear.
usually tends to
Yeah.
be like the first couple of weekends of April.
Maybe that
but
between the first and second meetings of
Okay.
April.
Well, I'll be in touch on that shortly.
April 6th.
Okay. Any other ideas, any other thoughts? Hearing none?
This is the 30th.
The next item is the 11A that I requested we consider, and I sent along a note later this afternoon on the question of an economic development initiative. Basically, there's no action to be taken tonight, except to anticipate what at our next meeting we might do. And basically, it says economic development means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. That I think we have a choice of how we form it, and then what do we charge it with the mission responsibilities. And I'm suggesting that rather than simply form it at this point without a lot of definition, unless we choose to spend the next meeting discussing it, we take a little time between now and some point in the near future and sound institutions as well as interested persons in the town as to what they think, not to such a detail that it has to qualify as a survey, but just to give us a sense of what is a manageable scope for a committee starting out, that we could ask people to sit on it and proceed. We're not going to answer all the questions. A committee absolutely would be the large part of the, the recommendations from there. But it seems to me we ought to have a fairly well-developed sense of where we would like to see the committee go, and in what form, and on what time schedule.
Are we convinced the committee is the best approach?
Well, that itself is a question of what
Versus
form.
hiring.
I mean, we talked about maybe a coalition of.
That's where my head was.
Yeah. I think like when the conversation first started was we had suggested both of those kind of routes, either hiring someone and versus trying to, gather the resources that we have in this town already and then see if they make a recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has to sync up with your input on the goal, right?
Yes.
I mean, in my mind, this has to really be a collaborative sort of endeavor, and the committee approach may not be
Right.
the best framework.
This seems like it could be a great subject for the retreat.
I mean,
we'd have more time to flesh out ideas and concepts.
I agree with making it a subject for the retreat and to reach some sort of consensus.
You know what maybe we could do is we could maybe invite Frank Coffey from GBIC to come in and just sort of give us the 101, right, in his mind, how he thinks about economic development, how municipalities are thinking about this, and
Or SBPA, for sure. Yeah, SBPA.
right,
Andrew,
SBPA
maybe.
could be a sort of combined type of presentation.
I was involved with SBPA for many, many years, and Todd Whitaker, I guess he's still president, but we had several conversations about an economic development committee or some way of gauging what the business people that are already here feel about it, or how, I know we had one, I think they met up at the Green, and I don't know, Lee, if you were there, but they had a relatively good representation of people from the community that gave some really great input as to what would help the community grow with the business and with Route 7, et cetera. And so that might be a really a good resource for you to, to contact them and, get a sense of a barometer of what they have seen through the years and heard through the years. So.
Well, one of the ideas that I commented on was to get sound opinion, and it may be we can just carve out a piece of the retreat, and ahead of time say, if the town takes an economic development initiative, what should the function of that be, and form following function, in what form? And invite SBPA, a number of the institutions, the Planning Commission, which has its own set of recommendations, and in a sense serve as the kind of panel which was part of one idea. And our then outcome is how should that initiative be formed as a town thing? A coalition,
I'm sorry, are we looking for policy recommendations? What's the mechanism for traction to implement ideas?
activities that would enhance economic development of Shelburne. And it may be, some take a policy form, some take a regulatory form, some may take a simple letter of support form, some may take a serious talk about incentive funding.
Right.
the Route 7 revitalization is a large subject all by itself.
Right.
And that, I think that's kind of the point, that we could be all over the map. I don't think we are prepared to staff one even next budget year, potentially. So you're not necessarily talking about a conventional economic development department or person. I think the question is, should there be an initiative? Obviously, I feel strongly there should be. And if so, what should its function be? And therefore, how do we form it? How do we form it up? And it may be we accomplish that by having an hour round table, basically, with all of these people who've long since been discussing it and thinking about it. Certainly the association and certainly the planning commission
And the local businesses.
and yeah, I mean,
that's who we.
a number of people who've expressed interest in it. Tom, and Alec, we heard that in discussions. So maybe we could, as you think about, as you round up the retreat and come back to us with some ideas, maybe we just have a session, keeping it kind of informal, but a listening session for us. What do you think, if the town has an initiative, what should its folks what should its principal focus be, and therefore what's the most efficient forum for it?
Yeah, I mean, it could just be a sort of informally moderated whiteboard session,
Yeah.
right? Where you're starting to just get input
Yeah.
from the community on what's working, what's not.
Just I like
that
to
idea.
start to initiate the
Brainstorm.
conversation
Yeah.
versus trying to
Yeah.
solve it with,
We could also supplement that
Or
by
organize it.
inviting
or organize it too much. Yeah.
local business people to meetings, our regularly scheduled meetings for, their input for 10 or 15 minutes. And
Yeah.
then we can coalesce all of that perhaps at the end of 1 year and sort of synthesize it.
Now, looking ahead, we would be
common
looking to
denominator.
next year's budget, should it
Right.
turn out.
Right,
that
exactly.
We think there should be budget support, so the timing is,
I'd like to point out the SBPA is having an event at the
Yes.
Shelburne Vineyard on
the vineyard, Monday the 25th.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Call out.
Yeah. All right, so the only idea was in introducing it tonight was to get it on the table, and if we make it I think that's a great idea, to make it a feature of the retreat.
It seems like it would
that
fit
makes a lot
very
of
well
sense.
with
Yeah.
thought process and be an opportunity to explore that in a little more depth than works here.
Yeah, we need to take our time, do it, you just can't lay it on a chair and ask people to come along and pick it up and be a committee or whatever.
Yeah.
We want to think pretty carefully about what's our best return for the limited bucks and for the limited time we've got, so.
Sure.
Okay.
And, we do need to reach out to the existing economic establishments, because just like with employees, one of the first tenets of economic development is the easiest new business to attract is to help the ones you have stay in
Absolutely.
business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not always about bringing in the grand new splashy employer, but what can we do to help encourage those who have already made that investment and that effort into our community today.
We have issues of affordability, housing, certainly workforce development projects or potentials, and supporting the artisan economy, our creative economy. I mean, and my hope would be that we'd come out of it with enough of a sense of what are the first three things we'd like to see, that we could then move, recognizing we can't do all 18, that kind of thing.
The other thing that we should dust off is Ann Hogan had done a town-wide survey
Yeah.
a couple years back that
I remember
had some good
that.
input from the local businesses.
Oh, that's a good point.
Here's
yeah.
what you guys should be thinking about.
I would love to see that.
In the
Is it
comment
online, do you
section,
think?
I don't know if it was,
I will find it. I know it was astounding in its breadth
Yes,
because
it
there
was
was something
very-
like 600.
exactly.
Businesses
It was very
responded.
comprehensive,
Yeah.
and she
Yeah.
invested a lot of time in it, so
No,
it'd be
it's
good.
overwhelming. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think-
daycares to teddy bear. It was pretty fascinating.
Right. Okay, is that?
I'll dig that up.
Good.
Does that give you?
I think that'd be a great
Pretty good idea, Lee?
focus. Yes, that's helpful. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for permitting that. The next item is the CBC member update.
Just very briefly, as I think most folks know, the Select Board took an action at a recent meeting to extend all the existing members' terms by 1 year to get us over the hump back on the calendar sequence. So I reached out to all the committee chairs to find out and hopefully make sure that everyone wants to continue serving. And for the most part, it appears that almost everyone would like to continue serving. We do have just a few vacancies right now. You appointed one planning commissioner this evening. We'll have 2 openings on the Tree Advisory Committee, 2 openings likely on the Ethics Committee, but not a great number of open slots to fill. So it looks like folks were happy and willing to continue serving.
Those 2 ethics could be, oh, I'm sorry, Jamie. Those 2 could be, the alternates could move up in that case, right? So those could be alternate openings?
And that is one possibility, is you move alternates up to a full position and appoint new alternates. So,
Sometimes the alternates don't want to serve in
Right.
full
Right.
capacity,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
right.
Just
You recall
bandwidth.
we had one DRB member who asked to go back to alternate because he couldn't commit the full time.
Yeah.
But, we can certainly ask those persons to see what their thoughts are.
Does it make any sense to think about an ad? Do we have enough vacancies to run an ad in the Shelburne News, or do you feel good about filling them?
So far in my short time here, Front Porch Forum has been very
Okay.
effective.
Good.
Although
Good.
we'll certainly keep ads in mind as
Yep.
needed.
Any comments? Anybody we can recruit out there?
And Kate's a new member as well.
That's right, Kate's here.
Okay, next item is the lease amendment with Sprint. This is the South Water Tank installation, possible action.
And we will, I'll ask to table this. Sprint did not deliver timely a lease amendment to the Water Commission, so we'll bring it back up when it's timely.
Okay, so noted. Next item is the the preview of upcoming agendas, work items, stormwater permitting, stormwater utility, emergency operations, which lead detail for us. For the benefit of the audience, you want to
Sure.
repeat that list?
Sure. This is, in a sense, a more detailed outgrowth, partially, of the goals and objectives that the board and I have come to an agreement with. So just laying out some upcoming events. At our next meeting on the 26th, we will have an overview of stormwater permitting on industrial sites generally, how the general permits work versus site-specific permits, what the thresholds are for those, when a town or another party might enter into a process to ask for one or the other to be issued. As was already mentioned, we all know about the Vermont Rail decision of the Second Circuit. We'll bring that back to this meeting on the 26th, and we'll talk about that with our attorney and presumably have some kind of a public statement thereafter. I'm beginning to make some initial efforts toward revitalizing the work on the stormwater issues, the stormwater utility, reaching out to a couple of major landowners. I'm going to have a meeting with them on Friday afternoon just to restart those conversations, and then we'll get things rolling in a more public manner.
Is the advisory committee still constituted, or are they all?
I believe they will be, but I'm reaching
Okay.
out to them individually.
Okay.
Tom DiPietro from South Burlington is certainly still willing to work with us.
Oh, good, that's good to hear.
Mike Schramm's willing to continue
Oh,
helping
that's
us
good.
with that, and some of the other players. So I think we will have that committee back up and running. Some other matters, we've already talked about economic development, and that'll be a key part of our retreat together. Coming up in the next month or so, the state requires towns to update their emergency operations plans each year. That's more of a staff-level work product. The board has to adopt it, but the work is really at our level with all the agencies. We will be bringing a matter to you. You've heard about it last year, the question of the wastewater treatment facilities and how best to handle those. Again, it's a part of that ongoing conversation about capital investments and where things fit into the timeframe and financing processes. So Chris Robinson is asked to come back this spring, and we need to decide by June in the sense of whether we might wish to choose option 4, which is shipping our wastewater to South Burlington. And the reason they need to know by June is they're undergoing their own strategic planning efforts, so they need to know whether to accommodate our flows into their systems. So that'll be coming up this spring. I'll be looking at personnel policy matters, just to see if there are any updates needed to that, as well as organizational development, which is another part of the goals and objectives. The fire rescue property, we're all well aware now that will be a new initiative we'll be working on in terms of the site suitability analysis with healthy living over the course of the next year. And then questions arisen about our committees, boards, and commissions, and whether what we have is really meeting our needs. Should there be some restructuring or reconsideration of cross-pollination between those? And that'll be something we'll take up later in the year as well. So that's just a start on some of the issues. We'll have plenty of interesting work before us over the year to come.
Comments?
Very thorough.
I didn't, when we were talking about the retreat.
Just one question, very quickly. Is
Yeah,
CLF still suing the town of Shelburne?
I'm sorry, would you go to the mic, Carol? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Carol Lovahosky, Long Meadow. Is CLF still suing the town of Shelburne? Are we still involved with that whole stormwater?
We won on summary judgment.
Yeah.
Board and the community on that. The court ruled in favor of the Agency of Natural Resources and the 9 towns that were the subject of that suit. My understanding is the 30-day appeal period has passed and an appeal has not been filed in that.
By
So
the
that,
Conservation Law
that
Foundation,
case,
yeah.
I believe, is signed, sealed, and delivered in favor of the towns and the state.
So we're not dealing with those stormwater issues at all anymore?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Lee, one thing you didn't mention in your list that's on our annotated agenda is energy efficiency initiatives.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
Do you want to flesh that out a little bit?
Sure.
It's one of my.
So one of the key goals and objectives the board had tasked me with was an overall facilities analysis. Again, looking toward what are our needs, what are our capital investment needs. And my thought was that that is a great opportunity to incorporate energy efficiency into that type of analysis. I also intend to restart conversations with Efficiency Vermont and others who will offer free technical advice and support, as well as significant financial incentives for upgrades, whether it's lights or other facility upgrades. I've done a number of projects with them, and they're very helpful, and it makes things very financially efficient. So we will be launching into that as well. Thanks for the reminder.
Any other comments? Any other comments, the audience? Hearing none, I might make another follow-on comment to the retreat. We have made it a point, Mike, to delegate amongst ourselves responsibilities in the form of liaison to a variety of efforts. Jamie, for instance, is the liaison to the municipal utility, initially serving on the SWAC. I've introduced to Colleen the idea of maybe she and I would join together on the capital investment initiative. And Mary's expressed a lot of interest in economic development. You, I know, and energy conservation. I mean, you, I know, we're very eager to have a role in the public education, the public outreach result of the new ethics ordinance.
Right.
And can we assume you are willing to kind of take the lead on that for us?
Sure.
And be the liaison?
I'm assuming I'm allowing the committee to generate the initiative, right? I'm to work with them, not ask them to do this, or how does that actually work when I'm the liaison?
Good. Well, you would honor us. That would be great.
But I'm asking for clarification.
The committee, the committee will drive.
The committee will drive the
initiative,
recommendations.
as
and
we've
I'll-
discussed with the committee previously, sort of the 2.0 notion.
Yeah.
As long as we have someone that's sort of staying in touch from a communication point of view and reporting back to the board.
Offers whatever support we can be and whatever
great.
help we can be, and
I happen to know a lot about
Exactly. Yeah, there's really no one better.
Gee, that's fortunate for us. Anyway, All right, the next item is the prospective fire rescue property site analysis. This is a discussion of the process going forward. Do you want to take the lead on that?
So as everyone knows, the ballot item passed, appropriating funds toward a site analysis and potential permitting of a prospective fire rescue facility on the Shelburne Road corridor. So that will be a partnership between multiple parties, certainly a partnership with Healthy Living and their development team in terms of consultants and managing that process. And we presume that there would be representation from this board. I'd certainly be involved in that, likely include fire chief and the rescue chief and maybe a few other folks from the community, so that we can just collectively make sure that process is happening in ways that benefit the town and financially and effectively and efficiently. So that's going to start fairly soon. In a sense, we're not trying to rush anything, but now that the vote was approved, we essentially have less than a year to get that work rolling so that we can know whether the site is suitable, and if so, whether to put the item on the ballot for next year's town meeting to consider the purchase of the property. One of the next items on the agenda relates to negotiating a purchase and sales agreement for that. And I don't want anyone to be fearful that that means we're suddenly signing a contract to commit ourselves to buying it. It's really formalizing what was the letter of intent, laying out the process of how we're going to move forward, how the timing of things will work out, and whose responsibilities are which. So that's formalizing a process. It's in no way committing us to anything more than we've all discussed previously, because we all know that property can't be purchased until a town meeting approves it, and we have no idea yet whether it's suitable. So we are committed to that thoughtful three-step process in the whole project.
Know that with the library, that project got slowed a little bit because of timing, not problems, but the way timing works with the Development Review Board. They have to notice things a certain amount of time in advance. So if we do have a clock ticking, I think it's really important that who's ever coordinating the application in front of the DRB, that they have those time constraints in mind, because I do know that what's going to have to happen is that lot's going to have to get subdivided, and there will obviously be a hearing on that. So just a word of warning, because I do know things got slowed down because of the DRB review for the library, and that could be problematic if you're trying to get I suppose you could still do the vote, and we could all say yes, but without knowing yet if it would even really work. Because if for some reason there's no subdivision, then that's that, I think.
I think it's a really good point, because the more clarity we can bring to the public process, the better off we all are. And I think we'd probably all be reticent to bring it to a vote if we didn't even know if the property could be subdivided and at least conceptually permitted. So, good point.
Do we have a time frame on when we'll know whether it's suitable? Is there a...
Not yet, but we'll be keeping everyone informed every step of the way. I presume that once we get to a landing on a purchase and sales agreement, that process will launch very shortly thereafter.
Yeah,
Does that help?
You've had a suggestion from me, which has not tonight taken the form of an actual action proposal, that we set up what could be called a steering committee, a project steering committee. We have a parallel experience with the library from which we've learned a great deal. We will enter. We will be introduced to a situation for which the option holder has already been engaged and active, and so we have we'll want to sit with them before too long and be sure that all of that activity is coordinated and we know who is doing what. The idea was to as well, potentially involve 2 to 3 other people, residents, who've got very special expertise in things like industrial siting, fundraising, which are going to be corollary responsibilities, down the road, and better to introduce them and get their help earlier than later. So the idea is to build on the experience we had with the library, and appoint a body that is our reference as a board for, among other things, expenditure, because we have town funds. And we've met with the service chiefs to be sure they're okay with sort of this division of labor, because we have a unique third role, which is a partnership with our rescue squad. And so the gist of it is, Jamie's been asked and has agreed to take the lead in negotiating the PSA. We are going to propose, I would think formally next meeting, is that okay? A steering committee, the membership to be determined, and we will then embark on a very thoroughgoing information gathering and get up to speed with their professional staff, some of whom are known to us, but the degree of their effort and where they are in the process is not. So we still need to sit and go through that. So any comments or thoughts from any of you?
Is your thinking that at the next meeting we'd actually make
Establish it
appointments to the steering
appoint
committee?
people to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so have we started are we going to formally do any outreach to the community to get a gauge of, is anyone interested, or?
From tonight, we can, if you
I mean, I
if
think
you
it's a
this
fair
makes sense.
thing to do, right?
Yeah,
If
if you
people in the
think-
community want to
Exactly.
get involved, then
Exactly. You think this makes sense, then we can advertise our interest in.
just in addition to us
Yeah.
putting names forward, I think it would be good to get
Exactly.
hands up from.
Yeah.
The 3 people I know who would be great are all on the Development Review Board.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people.
You know, Mark Samet, is it Dan or Don Hillman? He's on the DRB
David
now.
Hillman.
David Hillman,
Yeah.
yep. And then didn't we appoint Griswold,
Yes.
Doug Griswold,
Doug.
right?
Just recently,
Yeah,
yeah.
all 3 of them have huge construction experience.
Yeah.
Maybe Jeff
Well, I think
Hodgson
if-
would be willing to help us out.
Huh?
Maybe Jeff Hodgson would be willing to help us out now that he's not on the DRB.
Yeah.
It's a thought. It's an
We
architect.
should just put the word out.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Yeah.
But Kathy and Ruth may have some ideas. Why don't we settle on 3? So we have an outside number to work with. The 4, if everyone's comfortable
So
with the 4.
three plus the 2
Plus
chiefs,
chief, the
plus
rescue
1 board
SB
member?
and
One
Lee.
SB member.
Yes,
So it would be
Yeah.
7
That's
in
7
total.
total.
Yeah.
that's good,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And why don't we, if we're okay with that, we'll give Lee that direction, and then advertise and promote any interest in those 3. I think that would
Yep.
be,
I'll get right on it.
it wouldn't have to necessarily be an industrial siter. It could be someone with an architectural background, it could be someone with a project finance background altogether.
Yep.
So I think that would be important to involve those kinds of skills and talents early in the process.
Sure.
So, okay?
We'll get right on it.
Great.
Right. Anything else? Any comments? Hearing none?
Jerry, there's one.
I'm sorry.
Question from them.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Is this agenda item 15 we're still on?
It is.
Yes.
I just wanted to comment real quick. My name's Nicholas Esposito. I live on Falls Road. Am I getting through?
Yeah.
Okay. I was a bit disappointed with the rollout of the fire and rescue building proposal. I read about it in Shelburne News. I understand that, a town is a dynamic, changing entity. It can't be stagnant. And buildings we're going to outgrow as our population grows, and we're going to have to build new ones. I want to be cognizant, and I want the select board to be really cognizant about taxes and lower income folks living in the town, middle income folks, 20-somethings, 30-somethings who are in the earlier parts of their career and not making a ton of money, but being asked to, you know, continue to pay more for amenities that they may not necessarily use, or in the case of fire and rescue, they will, but there are some other ones like Pearson Library that I don't see myself going to anytime soon. Yes, maybe I should.
It's free.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Not quite, not free. So I just wanted.
You don't have to pay to go through the door.
That's true. There's also, you know, seniors on fixed incomes and their property taxes are going up every year. 8.4% increase in the budget year to year this year. I voted against that. It was passed with less than 25% of voters voting, as well as the $25,000 to do the study of the Rice Lumber Building. So I'm not enthusiastic just yet. I'm less enthusiastic about healthy living coming. It's a sign that we're just a wealthy suburb. It's owned by a private wealthy family, and most of their customers are wealthy folks. Not everyone in Shelburne is going to be able to shop there, and they're only 8 miles away, right on Dorset Street. If I had my choice, it'd be a not-for-profit co-op like City Market coming, not a private luxury grocery store. So I do want, you know, Shelburne to retain, as it changes, I want it to be mixed income. I want it to be diverse. That's the kind of community that I want to live in. I don't want to be pushed out later on, and I don't want to live in sort of a wealthy suburb that looks like it's outside Boston. So those are some thoughts that I had. I also wanted to just point out, I'm going to read the comprehensive plan that seems to focus more on land use, but just an idea of maybe doing a strategic planning process for 5 or 10-year plans they're very time consuming. They can be expensive if you have a consultant facilitating the process, but it's very interdisciplinary, and it gets at all of the various sorts of fields and disciplines that it takes to run the town: water, sewer, fire, rescue, all of that. And just to, I'm sure there's a lot of connection between committee members. We have lots of committees. Just try to make them, I don't know how to create connections between them, but interdisciplinary as much as possible. Jerry, you had said economic development to folks means, you know, different things. Economic development to me will look more like, can I walk to my barber? Whereas economic development to some folks will be, let's have a big sort of employer come in that has 500 new jobs or something. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a very interesting set of comments. And please feel free to kind of track us along several of these lines. And, if you don't sit still, we'll recruit you. Thank you. Any other comments?
I mean, I agree. Kudos for taking the mic and sharing your sentiments. So you're not alone, is what I would tell you. I'm sure each of us could talk at length about just this project in particular, and sort of the timing of it is something that we've all talked a lot about as not being ideal. So I think a lot of us are like-minded in that sense, that, you know, if it were our decision, we wouldn't put it forward at that time. But in any event, please stay in touch on these topics, and, you know, to your point, be careful, because we might recruit you.
One of the things that we have stressed in the recent past is very strong willingness and readiness to listen and take in, absorb, and consider all opinions and points of view. And one of the threads that runs through this retreat that you've heard us discussing, no doubt, again this year, will be something that sometimes is boulderized and called transparency. But there is a very strong feeling on our parts that we are among others like us who have things to say and ideas, and we're fully accepting of them and encourage them. So by all means, continue to track several of these projects, including the fire rescue, because we'll have periodic reports all the year on where that's, what's happening and where it's going. So we thank you for coming.
Can I make a couple of quick comments? I think one of the points you raised, though, I think augurs heavily for economic development strategy or plan in Shelburne, because this is not the first comment I've heard about healthy living coming and what it will do to the market in the village. And it's pretty well known that healthy living has a more expensive price point. And we didn't have any plan for recruiting or anything on that big tract of Route 7 land. So to that point, that's a reason to have an economic development strategy for the town. I do want to say, though, that my understanding is more likely than not, the type of establishment that would have ended up at that corner would have been a Walgreens or a CVS or some sort of franchise like that. So in one sense, I feel like healthy living does sort of keep it a little bit more Vermont country feeling, independent business people, rather than yet another, Kinney Drugs or something like that.
Yeah, the stress on economic development is local, as regional as our world must be. I mean, we're de facto an integer in a region, which is really the economic driver. But the whole idea is to what suits us as a locality and what's in our interest. But thank you again. Any other comments?
Just one other thing.
And that's, when you talk about your property taxes and, having some sort of commercial base helps balance that. And that's what we're looking for, is more than anything else is balance. We don't want, extraordinary residential growth. That's a lot of houses and sprawl, and we're trying to focus that kind of growth in specific areas within the town. But we have a huge commercial area, all of that Route 7 corridor, that's underutilized at the moment. And, I hate using an overused term, but, beggars can't be choosers. That being said, as far as a community partner, thus far, Healthy Living has been a really fantastic community partner, and I wouldn't want dismay at the type of business or who anybody thinks that they cater to be derogatory, I guess. And so they've been fantastic, and they've worked with us on a very short timeline that we didn't enjoy any more, I think, than the voters did. And we've all expressed that, I think, at some point. And but we do appreciate the comments quite a bit. I think they've been echoed and it's understood.
Thank you. Kat, you want to add something? You look like you're ready to.
I actually agree with the project, and I complain about my taxes all the time. So I'm about to write my third check of the year for a total just under $45,000, and I agree with it. I agree with this project. I think it's really good for Route 7. I think it's really healthy for my business. I love the talk about economic redevelopment. I think it's overdue. So I'm on board with this. So.
Mary's written your name down. So. Are any other comments before we move to convene as a liquor commission? We have one license.
This is the part of the meeting where
all
we
right.
take out our whiskey.
All right. So we're tabled. The next item then is the executive session.
Oh, it's tabled. Geez,
and
Just
that
telling
we,
Mike he was about to get some nice whiskey, but okay.
What do you think of?
Welcome.
we're waiting on, you know, we're waiting on that apple brandy.
Yeah.
All right, and as usual for our executive session, there are two sequential motions, the first of which one of us, I'm sure, will shortly make.
To 1 VSA 313, I move to bind the premature public disclosure of contract negotiations related to a purchase and sales agreement with Road to Hana Incorporated, DBA Healthy Living Market and Cafe, would place the town at a significant disadvantage.
Moved by Colleen,
Second.
seconded by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Move to enter executive session pursuant to 1 VSA 313 for the purpose of real estate contract negotiations as noted above, and to invite the town attorney and town manager to participate. And the town attorney will be on phone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second, moved by Colleen, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those approving, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay.